The Federal Reserve Bank can print money out of thin air. You've probably heard people talk about that before. But did you know that you can almost do the same thing, create money or wealth out of thin air, just through a different process? What's up everybody, I am Jaspreet Singh from theminorityMindset.com and welcome to The Minority Mindset. You've probably heard people say things like the Fed is printing money out of thin air and the United States is borrowing money like crazy and the value of our dollars are being diluted. Today I want to go a little bit deeper and talk about how money is created, not just from the Fed's perspective, but how you can create money too. Yes, it is possible. This is what every wealthy person knows and understands, and if you do not understand how to create money or wealth, then you're never going to be able to take advantage of it. To understand how you can create money, we need to first understand how the Fed creates money, which I'm going to talk about in just a second. But before I do that, I need you to do me a quick favor and smash that thumbs up button below. In the United States, your money, your dollars are created through debt, and you'll see exactly what I mean. So let's say you have $100 in your pocket, and I'm gonna draw you a nice mustache, and you deposit this $100 into your bank savings account. And then George, Nancy, and Bunty all do the same thing. They all deposit $100 into the bank. So now the bank has $400 in savings or deposits in their accounts. The bank is going to want to make some money off of this $400. They're not just going to keep it in a vault sitting there collecting dust. So what they're going to do is they're going to invest this $400, and the bank is in the business of lending money. So now Bunty, who was over here, I'll put him over here now, Bunty wants to buy a car and he wants to go to the bank and get a $300 loan. So we're going to assume that cars only cost $300 in this world. So the bank loans Bunty $300. The bank has the money to do that because they have $400, and now Bunty is going to pay the bank back 5% interest or so. So Bunty is going to pay the bank back in interest over the next 5 years, but the bank now doesn't have $400 sitting in their vault. They only have $100 because they just paid out $300 in loans, and they're not going to get this $300 back until Bunty pays off this entire loan. Now what the bank is going to do is they're going to pay all of you depositors back a teeny tiny bit of interest because the bank is using your savings to loan it out as an investment. Your interest is not going to be that much, but that's what the bank gives you in order to lend your money out. Now this situation that I'm showing you right now is not an ideal situation for the bank, because the bank is going to run out of money very quickly. You have deposited, all of you depositors, $400 into the bank. Bunty took out $300 for a loan, and now the bank is going to run out of money very quickly. If Nancy and George went to the bank to withdraw their cash because they deposited $100 into the bank is going to say, "Oh, sorry, we don't have the money to give you your money back. You're going to have to wait 5 years for Bunty to repay back all of his loans." If that happened, you would see mass panic and mass chaos, so that's why the system doesn't work like this. Instead, here's what happens. So let me clean this up really quickly, that way you can see what happens. Now, you, Nancy, George, and Bunty all deposit $100 in the bank. So now the bank has $400, but the government says, "Okay, bank, you are not allowed to lend out all $400 that you have. You have to keep some money in reserves." So typically it's 10% in reserves. So if the bank received $400, that means they're only allowed to have $360 to lend out of these deposits, and they have to keep $40 in reserves just in case. So if people want to go get their money back and the bank doesn't always have some cash, they have this money in reserves. That way they are protected by having a little bit of a safety net, and then they use something called the fractional reserve banking system to help them lend out even more money. If this was the only money the banks could lend out, then banks would be very limited as to how many loans they could make, because if they made 1 or 2 loans and people started pulling their money out, your bank would run out of money. And so this fractional reserve banking system was created to help banks lend out even more money by lending out money they don't have. To make this fractional reserve banking system work, the bank will now go to the Fed, the Federal Reserve Bank, and they're going to say, "Hey Fed, what can we do to lend out more money?" And the Fed is going to say, "Okay, show me how much money you have in deposits. $360? okay, we will give you 20x your deposits, that way you have more money to loan out. So in this situation, the Fed would give the bank something like $7,000. This way the bank has more money to lend out. But the issue here is the Federal Reserve Bank isn't a bank, right? You can't go there to deposit money. They are not a reserve because they don't keep any cash reserves, and they're not federal. They even say so on their website. So if the Fed wants to create the $7,000 so your bank has more money to lend out, the Fed has to create this money literally out of thin air, that way your bank has more money to lend out. And the way that your bank puts this money back into circulation is not by giving this money to people, it's by lending this money out. This is why your money is debt, because your money is created out of thin air and then it's lent out into the economy. That's how it's put into our circulation. Every time another loan is issued by your bank, the Fed issues more money, creates this money out of thin air and gives it to your bank. That way your bank has more money to lend out, and that way your bank has more money. That way in case somebody went to go withdraw their cash, the bank has this cash. But this money creation process and this fractional reserve banking process gets even more interesting if you look at how it evolves. Let's go back to the original example. You, Bunty, George, Nancy all deposit $100 into the bank. The bank has $400. They have to put 10% in reserves, $40. They have $360 in lendable deposits. They go to the Fed. The Fed gives them another $7,000. And then Bunty wants to borrow $300. That way he can go and buy a car. So now Bunty's going to take this fresh new $300 that he just got from the bank that the Fed just printed, and now Bunty's going to take this $300 and he is going to give it to his car company, and in exchange, the car company is going to give him, I'll put this in black, the car company is going to give Bunty a car, and now this car company has $300, and what are they going to do with that $300? The car company is going to take the $300 and they are going to deposit it into their bank. Now bank 2 just got a fresh new $300 deposit, and they got to follow the rules. They're going to put aside 10% or $30 in reserves, and then they're going to have $270 in lendable deposits. But now they're going to follow the same fractional reserve banking system, and bank 2 is now going to go to the Fed, and they're going to say, hey Fed, can you give us some more money so we have more money to lend out? And now the Fed is going to give bank 2 about $5,000, right? 20x deposits. And now bank 2 has more money that was just created out of thin air, because this money was created as debt. It was given to Bunty. Bunty went and bought this car. This car company put it into their bank, and now more money was created, and now bank 2 will have more money, more debt that was created that they can lend out. As you can see, this creates one big cycle of debt. More money is borrowed, so more money is created, which means more money is going to be borrowed, which means more money is going to be created. And now we have this whole system of fractional reserve spending and fractional reserve lending and fractional reserve banking, and everybody is living off of this money, which is actually just debt. That's why they say the economy runs on spending, because if money is not being spent, then this whole system fails. So this system is how it works in a normal economy, but things are a little bit different in 2020 because we're in a recession. So remember what I just said. This system, our economy, runs on spending. When you're in a recession, spending slows down. And to encourage people to spend, the Federal Reserve Bank creates these regulations and rules and different programs to encourage people to spend. And if you look at the system, what's the best way to encourage people to spend? Make it easier for banks to loan out more money. So on March 26, 2020, the Federal Reserve Bank actually removed this 10% reserve requirement, which says that the banks no longer are required to keep any money in reserves. That means banks can lend out all $400 here, all $300 here. They don't have to keep any extra cash in reserves, as a way for banks to have more money to lend out and to encourage them to make more loans. I mean, when has a safety net of cash ever come in handy anyways? Take a good look at this, because I'm about to clean this off and show you why this is so important to understand. If you've ever taken an accounting class before, you've heard the term assets and liabilities. Assets are things that put money into your pocket. Liabilities are things that take money away from your pocket. So when you go to the bank and you deposit $100 into your account, this is a liability for the bank, because this is $100 that the bank owes you, right? If you take $100 and you deposit into your savings account, that's not the bank's money, that's your money. So that's money that the bank owes you. But when the bank then loans this $100 out to somebody else, this $100 actually gets pushed onto the bank's asset side of their financial statements, because now they have just lent that money to somebody else, and now that's money that somebody else owes the bank. Plus, because of this fractional reserve banking system, they actually get to add another $900 or so, whatever how much money they lend out, and now they have $1,000 in assets on their financial statements because of a $100 liability. You deposited $100 in your account. This is a liability for the bank because this is money that your bank owes you. But then your bank turns around and they take your $100 and they lend it out to somebody else. So they turn this $100 liability into an asset, even though they still owe you this money, because now somebody else owes this money to the bank. The bank doesn't have your $100 anymore. They gave it away to somebody else, and then they multiplied it to $1,000. So they have just created these assets out of thin air. The exact same dollar that's a liability for the bank also turns out to be an asset for the bank times 10, just because of how money is created. To put this in perspective, your clothes are liabilities, right? They take money away from you. If you go to the mall and you spend $100 on clothes and you had the same system, that would mean that you spend $100 on clothes, which is a liability, and every time you spend $100 on clothes, somebody would magically come and just give you $1,000. Now, I want to talk about how you can use this system to benefit you. That way you can create money or wealth. But before I get into that, if you are interested in learning more about assets and liabilities and money management and investing, we have a free ebook on money management and investing that you can read for free when you sign up for our financial education emails, which are also free. If you want to read our free ebook and get our financial education emails, you can do that for free by clicking the link up here or by clicking the link in the description below. By the way, our financial education emails are separate from our financial news emails. The first way money is created is through debt. That's how money enters our economic system and our financial circulation. But the second way money can be created and how you can capitalize on it is through equity. Debt creates money and it puts it into the economic system. Equity then pulls this new money that was just created and it puts it into the pockets of people who understand money. The simplest way for you to understand this is to think about buying a home. Let's say you bought this home right here for $500,000. And then 10 years go by and now this home is now worth $500,000. It goes up in value. So now your home is worth, finish the windows, $1 million. You are now a millionaire because you have equity in your home worth $1 million, assuming you have no debt. You also just created this $500,000 of money or wealth right out of thin air. You didn't do anything to help your home increase in value. Maybe you did some renovations here or there, but that's not why your home is now worth $1 million. This $500,000 of equity was just created. What happened? Money was created through debt. And this debt went into the hands of people, and people took this money and they started buying homes in your area and your neighborhood. Now, when that happened, home value started to go up, and some of this new debt was now absorbed into the equity or value of your home. More money was created through debt, and you own this asset, and your equity in this asset went up because of this new creation of debt and money. At this point, you might not feel like a millionaire. You're still going to work every day and getting a paycheck and paying bills like normal, but you are a millionaire because you have equity of $1 million. Here's where people get in trouble. You are a millionaire on paper, okay? You don't have $1 million in your bank account and you don't have $1 million of income. You just have $1 million on paper, which says this is what your net worth is because this is what your home is, but you don't actually have this $1 million until you sell your property. And so where people get in trouble is now they take a refinance or they take a loan out on their assets, this equity, this property, and they start living this $1 million lifestyle. They buy all these liabilities. Remember, things that take money away from you. They start buying shoes and vacations, and now you're living this $1 million lifestyle. And then if the value of your property goes down, you are spending a $1 million lifestyle, but you are no longer a millionaire because your paper value just went down. It's not just homes. You can create this type of equity or wealth by buying an asset or something that creates more value. Let's talk about Amazon, the company, for a second. In the end of 2019, the Amazon stock was selling for something like $1,700 a share. So if you bought one share of Amazon, you would have had to pay $1,700 a share for that. In 2020, mid-2020, the Amazon stock was trading for above $3,000 a share. So now, if I finish drawing this is $1,300 additional. Now, For every $1,700 you paid into Amazon in 2020, you would have gotten another $1,300 of equity. Technically, this is called your appreciation, but you don't have to do anything to increase the value of your investment. You're not the one sitting there growing Amazon. I mean, maybe you're spending money on Amazon.com, but you don't have to physically do something to help increase the value of your investment. What happened, again, was money was created through debt, and this debt went into the hands of people, and people took their new money that was freshly created and they spent it at places like Amazon, and that made their company more valuable, and that made your equity, your stock, more valuable. You're benefiting from this new creation of money, which was debt, because it's creating you new money through the form of debt and equity. So money is created through the form of debt and it enters our financial circulation. Now, you can benefit from this by owning assets that are now pulling up this new debt or money that's created in the form of equity, because this makes the value of your investments more. This is what wealthy people do. They buy assets with equity, and then if this asset is creating more value, then the value of their investment creates more wealth. This is what financial education is all about. And if you're looking for more resources to learn how to do this, we have tons of videos on our channel, and we have a free ebook and financial education emails for you in the description below.